Welcome to the latest episode of Tecman Talks Dynamics, joined by James, Matt and Liz as always. And we were out last week at the largest Business Central conference in the world, Directions EMEA.
Universe even.
That we're aware of. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so what do you know that we don't?
And there's about just over 3,200 people there. Microsoft sent an awful lot of people. And it really gives you a state of the nation and what's happening with BC right now and where it's going. And we get a lot of information from that. And I think from all of us from discussing when we got back, this is probably the biggest shift in what we've seen, especially over the last few years, around where the product is and what's going to happen to the product, to partners and how we work with the changes that are coming. And inevitably, the main topic that they led with was those two letters that we're all talking about all day, every day, AI. Okay, so there's some big changes coming. We've been talking about that a little bit with Copilot and the agents that have come into the product.
I mean,
but also now we're seeing it impact the way that the development is being done, the way that we can deliver things a lot quicker. So
probably you said state of the nation, Liam. So it probably should say, they announced that there's over 50,000 active customers on Business Central now. It's passed that up from 45,000 last year, so you think like 10% growth in a year is not a bad
and that's on top of on-premise nav customers.
Just the new SaaS
really
ones.
New logo.
Yes.
Which until 2 days ago I had tattoos on my arm.
So the whole kind of the state of the nation, the whole community is a pretty buoyant, positive state. But we're looking over the fence at what's coming down the track, and yes, the whole subject really was what is about to hit in terms of what this AI agents and kind of what changes, exactly you said, it's going to mean for partners in terms of what they do, what they can achieve and how quickly, and also customers as well in terms of the impact this is going to have. And I'll be honest and sit here, some of it, it's amazing the progress, but it's also slightly scary in that it kind of all the knowns are upended and seem to be unknowns right now. So it's still early days, but
I guess
it's exciting. And
if you start at the agent side of things, we've mentioned agents before, I'm sure they've been around for a while. So there's the first agent that released was a sales order agent, which hooks to an email address and can monitor that and deal with providing quotes and availability, sending the quotes back, converting those, taking orders, and that's it. And it's confined. As part of that process, the user is involved to check it. You can disable that at certain points to say, if we've dealt with this customer before, just let AI respond to it. And there's a purchasing agent as well, which is not in full production yet, but it's coming to production, kind of general release very soon. And that's on the purchasing side, taking a purchase invoice, creating the invoice, matching it, that kind of process.
And there's a couple more as well, didn't they?
Yeah. There's the expense management app, which is very much in development, which I would see this time next year maybe. That looked really good. Yeah. That looked really good. I think for me, because I didn't go last year, so it's been kind of a 2 year. It was a bit of a. It's gone from Copilot, which was your assistant to doing tasks, to full-on agents, which is full automation of those kind of repetitive processes, and that for me has been the biggest shift. Is now it is doing the work of a person, not just assisting a person to do the work.
And that raises some questions, doesn't it?
And it raises lots of questions. Yeah. We talked before as to how ready are businesses to do this. If you are generating sales orders using an agent rather than a person, should you be saying this has been generated by an agent?
Well, you've got a couple of choices. I mean, should you review them?
Yeah, exactly.
Before it replies, so that you can sanity check. I mean, if it takes 5 minutes to take an incoming email and produce an order back, having an agent do 4 minutes 50 and you use the 10 seconds to look at it, and then the agent will get better if you say, no, you didn't get this right.
Of course.
So that's I think this is partly where agents also should be co-pilots rather than pilots. You should be in control.
And that is the messaging from
Yes.
Microsoft. This idea of frontier firms, as they're calling them, which scares a bit scary that you're right at the bleeding edge. But you're right that you have agent bosses that, as the human, you are monitoring.
You are supervising agents rather than
you're just cutting out that manual work, and then you are checking that work is correct. But then surely that means that there's more responsibility on the person that's checking.
But
because it's harder to check and approve than it is to input, I would say.
Yeah, because you've got to
get it consistently.
I think James has summed it up well previously about agents. It's almost like having a new employee.
Yeah.
And we all know when you get a new employee, to begin with, it's probably harder work to get that person up to speed because you've got
give
to
them intense supervision.
And so it'll be interesting how that, as you said, how the agent learns. And you're checking, you'll probably spot the obvious errors like you do over a period of time. But you do have to treat these agents, especially as they are now, and this is still really new technology, as though you've got a new employee on the first.
But the productivity gain,
it's still massive.
The carrot that's there is just huge. You know, so I think this is going to be the first time in my career where we've reimagined what the business process looks like. You know, we ripped it up. Previous platform migrations of all the way through new versions, all the rest of it, it's been incremental gains. This is a start again.
Yeah. Well, the rest has been technical platform, and this is changed the way that the business process works. You know, what can you automate?
This is going to affect the customer in a way that nothing else has.
And especially going forwards where, and this is out available for us to play with, and is coming soon for customers to play with in a sandbox, is it's called a playground at the moment, but in effect you can go and create your own agent, and you create it by just typing in a set of instructions in a block of text.
Yeah, natural language. You don't need to be a coder. You tell the playground what you want the agent to do, what process you want the agent to do, and then you can try it out.
As long as BC can do it, and you give it a role center, so kind of starting page,
permission sets,
so as long as it can
what is
see
it allowed
that page,
to do?
So it's looking at the metadata behind that page.
You can stop the agent from doing things that it shouldn't do.
Narrow it down a bit, because if you leave it too open, then it's going to start coming up with some wrong answers. So there's going to be certainly a skill in that, but there's no restriction on what it can do as long as it's something that BC can actually do that process.
It's removing that boundary of you needed to know almost like another language, which
exactly,
which was obviously was the programming language and the syntax that had to be required. That is slowly being, not even slowly, it's quickly being removed as a point of entry to generate your own code.
But how you control that raises some questions. I can just picture a screen with 25, 30 agents all across the top. And are they talking? Are they crossing over each other's duties?
And I think the examples you've seen and the
just
people
like
that
people would. It's just like people would. You've just got to you've got to work on the business process, but they're not people. They're agents.
You've got to understand the communication. It's like a team of people. It's like a team of kind of almost software robots. That's what they're doing, but you need to make sure they don't bash into each other and kind of all that.
You wouldn't employ a team of 10 and just let them get on with it. You would set objectives, you would...
who's responsible for what?
I sat in a session where they say now organisation charts are now having agents in them, right?
Yes,
exactly. And that's exactly Ray's concept.
Yeah.
And you probably need that level of structure to understand what does what and where it goes.
When we talk about kind of readiness for this, the leadership needs in an organisation need to be very clear what their view is and what their objectives are when it comes to AI.
I was privy to watching backstage last year where they showed an agent for the first time in the keynote at Directions, and I don't think Microsoft will mind me saying it was very kind of, they were putting it together pretty much as they were showing it. It was kind of it was right on the edge of what the technology was capable of. They were finding out as they went along. This year, they did exactly the same thing. It was all smooth, just worked. It's matured a lot in that time. Yeah. They've deliberately kept it to them. At the moment, we can't build an agent. We can't even tweak the existing agents. And they wanted to make that kind of technology, that toolkit for how they create agents, a bit more fully featured. They needed to understand it before they passed it across to the rest of us. They're promising that in January 26 we'll get hands on much more of be able to go. And for me, that will be the point. That will be the starting gun for customers, because until you can take and put your spin on that sales order process, or your spin on the purchase invoice process, or whatever, Business Central is not a product that most people use out of the box. Few do, but that's not its strength. Its strength is actually taking it and moulding it to your particular circumstances. As partners, that's always been our job, is to take what we can, use it as standard where that works, but also add the final 5% or whatever it is, which is unique to you. When we can do that with agents, I think there's a tsunami of work, because my cost calculation is, let's just remind everybody out there, agents are not free. It's not, you get a small number of tokens, but you can run them like 4 or 5 times an agent process in a month.
Yeah.
Then there's a meter that starts ticking. But I would say that if you look at minimum cost of employment in the UK, I think an agent pretty much can achieve 10 times is a tenth of the cost of what a human is. So if you can reliably get that agent working, you've got a factor of 10 efficiency there, and it's scalable. It will work 24/7. It doesn't require cigarette breaks or loo breaks or all of those things that humans do. Well,
as long as it's yours up.
Yeah, true, but then the humans can't do much when there's yours down either.
Absolutely.
The platform's down. So I think there will be intense pressure to make this work, and it's going to be, everybody using BC out there should be thinking, which is the process that they should agentify first? What routine, regular, high volume process in their organisation constantly causes them, maybe it's customer service issues because they don't have enough capacity, or it peaks and troughs. That's ideal for agents, because it will work through the backlog, and then you're not using tokens, you're not incurring cost while it's doing nothing. So if there's no emails coming in, I think I'm quite keen to bait on it. Most of our customers, in terms of manufacturers and distributors, the returns process is something they hate. If you can manage that whole returns process via an agent process, get those dealt with faster, get the stuff collected, get the credit issued faster, with no human interaction, that's one that is a gift.
Yeah.
And I think there's a whole bunch of business processes out there that people probably don't even recognise right now. We can agentify them, and you're talking about a 10-to-1 productivity gain.
You spoke about the speed Microsoft have done this, and over the last year, we probably have, I wouldn't say frustrated, but they promised a lot, then nothing seemed to happen, and even with the payables agent, we're still not really quite there. And having Soren on the podcast an episode or 2 back, it was interesting to hear the level they have to go through before they're allowed to put this into production, because ERP isn't just like, okay, I do marketing with AI, so if we create something with AI and it's not quite right, okay, well, we'll redo it again.
Hallucinates and a bit of text if the sentence is wrong.
If that's your ERP system,
statement.
absolutely.
And that's why you need a review process before it posts.
Yeah.
Talking to Liz earlier today, and kind of she says, well, should we let AI post invoices? I don't think so, not without a review, because if you get a hallucination in there, and part of what these LLMs do is that, well, just like a human, one day it interprets it this way, the following day you give it exactly the same instruction, it interprets it slightly different, comes up with a slightly different result. Well, that might be fatal for accuracy. So you do need a review, you need a checks and balance. You're not doing the process, you're supervising the process.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting, because that brings us on to how we could use it internally. So we're telling all of our customers, you need to be considering this, but we also need to think about how it impacts our business process and how the service that we provide to the customers. I think at the conference it was referred to as be your own customer zero.
Yep.
You know, and there are so many things that we can do to enhance the service to our customers, I think, particularly around consulting and development.
Yep.
And have started doing already.
There's very little of our business which is untouched by AI as of today.
Yeah. We have all the same questions, don't we? So I had a conversation with a customer last week, a consulting type call, about a particular requirement, and I kind of put the requirement out there, and one of the guys in the consulting team pushed it through an agent that he'd built, and it came out with the same solution as I would have decided on.
Yeah.
But it documented it with way more detail. It would have took me hours to document it with that amount of detail. It had links to all the relevant places in Microsoft Learn that you would need to go to do the setup. And at the very end, it said, you might want to consider a small customisation. Do you want me to build it? And I went back to the customer and I took the decision that I was going, I'm going to give you all this information, but I'm going to tell you I haven't written this. Yeah. It's generated by a Copilot.
You didn't sit there all night, Liz.
And she replied to me and said, thank you for being honest about that. She said, because I've been receiving things from people that I know are not... That I think her words were, have a level of intelligence and grammar that had previously eluded them. So I'm sure she won't mind me quoting that. So I took the decision to stay on and say, look, I've checked it and I agree with it, but it was generated by Copilot. But that would have been probably half a day's consulting to document, let alone a charge then to build at the end. So, I think we have a responsibility to have the skills in exactly the same way to check and quality assure what is coming out and to think about some of the things that maybe Copilot hasn't thought about. But it does mean that we can deliver a lot more for a lot less.
I mean, I have the privilege of being chair of directions and I opened the conference last week, and I think the statement that people quoted back to me that I made in that opening remarks was, we're people who sell change to customers. Now change has come for us.
Yeah.
And it is a fundamental change to how we do things. I think, anybody who kind of the days of kind of commissioning 10 days of development and just saying, right, here's the spec of what I want, go away and build this, and just not hearing back till it's finished should be over, because the way we can ask AI to write code, it doesn't always get it right, but then human developers don't always get it right. No. Sorry, its interpretation of what you're asking, sometimes the way it does something, but when it gets it wrong, you sit there and you say, actually, I prefer it if you did it this way, or you tune it. So you have to supervise it, but it can create in 10 minutes what would have taken 2-3 hours and to the traditional method.
And to be clear, in effect, what this is within our development environment, there's now a kind of section on the side which is AI, and it's using. You can choose the model it uses, and there's the models are getting better week by week, so not month by month. But the models we're using now are that advanced because they understand BC, they understand, they've got access to MS Learn, how you develop, how the application works.
What the standard does.
Yep, and you can build your own standards into that. So you drop in some files and say, and this is the way we want to do things. And then you just natural language. I was doing a demo yesterday to a prospect, and they were asking about something, and I said, shall I? Go on then. So I just opened up the development environment. Obviously, you'd never do that on a demo before. And I said, look, I'll ask it the question, this is the kind of functionality you're looking
on the
for.
edge, Matt.
Yeah. And I said, and as, the prompts go past and said, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm going to do, this is the way I'm going to approach it. Right, I'm now building these tables and building the code, building these functions. You see it processing through, it comes up with a little script, and this is how it works. You go to here, to this is the setup you have to do, this is how you process it. Just with one sentence.
Yeah.
So it may not always get it right. It absolutely needs.
But that's the skill in the consulting, though, isn't it? That's the skill in the consulting to supervise.
Yep.
not to churn out the code, but to supervise it and to architecture it all together.
We're not builders anymore, we're architects.
Yeah.
You know, so you mentioned, Matt, you know, having 30 agents across the top of the page. Well, actually, that's our job, is to take a step back from the customer and look at the overall picture and conceptualise it and understand how those different processes will interact and how that's going to work together. And that's our role. So, you know, whereas we've spent actually the last 10 years, we've spent the majority churning out documents, churning out kind of specifications, instructions, and so on. The exciting thing here is we can deliver a lot more for customers a lot faster. And you know, and it's a much more interactive process. The whole kind of situation where, you know, early nav days, used to go to the customer, have a discussion with them in the morning, sit in a back room and code for like 4 hours, and then come out and show them something. And it was all very simplistic. That is almost back where I think showing the customer regularly and often and getting their feedback, we can build a proof of concept, a prototype, faster than we can specify.
Yeah, but show them tweak it.
Specify in Word, which, to be honest, a lot of customers struggle then to turn, and you know, there's a disconnect when the software finally arrives, because what we've envisaged and what they've seen in their head are two different things, and it's very difficult to get that perfectly aligned in a Word document. Why do that? Just, you know, commission a couple of days, have a prototyping session, and you know what you're building that first couple of days is probably 50% of the solution sometimes. Depending on what you're doing. I think the other thing that is fundamentally changed, you know, this is an admission of guilt here, but we've spent the last 10 years trying to keep customers' expectations of what they're going to get, users' expectations, what they're going to get within customers' ability to kind of have the budget to fund it.
Yeah.
And so we've been trying to kind of always wrangle them down to something that whoever was paying the bills would sign off on.
Yeah.
And so it minimum viable solution became a set of terms.
And drive the process to that as well.
We
shouldn't apologise for that, because with the tools that we had, that was the right thing to do.
In a set of circumstances, what chose
that was the right thing to do at the time.
Correct,
but it's different now.
The compromises are being removed, aren't they?
Yes.
So the shackles. So we can go back now, and kind of we should go back, because things that you couldn't, you know, if it was a 10-day customization exercise, and it was saving them 5 minutes a week, it probably wasn't. There was no way you ever got payback. You know, it's going to be years before you got payback. Suddenly the payback, because it now that 10-day customization actually might only take a day now. So the payback time suddenly has shortened dramatically. So things that were not economic to do in the past are very economic to do now.
Absolutely they are, but we still have to ensure that the customer has a supportable solution.
Yes.
And when things go wrong, we can help. You know, that is going to be even more important, that when all these things come together, and maybe customers are you know, creating agents themselves, and then something happened and the data goes wrong, that we can track it back. But that's where we've got even better tools that will tell us what the code's doing.
For development, I don't know about agents, because the issue, you know, if a customer creates an agent and they say, why has it come back with that answer? It's using an LLM that we have no control over.
That's true. You know, that is true. So again,
and the interpretation might be different today from tomorrow.
Yeah, there might be some advice on how to harden the prompt and make it more reliable, but
yes,
yeah,
prompt engineering.
This isn't code. You know, it doesn't go and calculate code.
But that's part of our skill, to advise where you write some code which will execute in a consistent, regular way, and where you actually use the interpreter, pass the request in through an LLM, which goes and then does different things for the functions you've got. Mm-hmm. You know, that's our job as architects, to advise the most reliable method.
That's where our support skill needs to be even higher, because actually the traditional how do I do this kind of questions, they're not there. They've already dwindled. So they're going to disappear, because an agent will tell you that. but actually, when you need help, you will need help, because it will be so complex in terms of how what has happened has happened.
Forensic science of support is going to need to be
our support team. That they will need to be even better skilled, and we're already trying to tackle these things.
There's two things to that, Liz. One is that because you can develop you can build much faster. Actually, building the diagnostics can be, the log files and all the rest of it, and the management of those and all the rest of it. So if that's part of when you build the solution, you should actually build in the ability to support that 100%, solution.
100%. And that's where sometimes if a customer's building it themselves, they might not have that
Correct.
fully rounded view. So agree completely.
100%. Because, again, from an audit perspective, how are you going to audit this? That's because
that goes back to the governance and the procedures and the policies that I talked about at the beginning. Yeah. How ready are you for this? It's all very well and good saying we're going to have an agent doing this.
So the second piece is, look, automated tests. So automated tests we've wanted for years, but we've never quite got, So the way that we kind of measure how many is coverage. What percentage of the solution is covered by an automated test. So you can say this is the use case, feed it in, and it tests it before that solution gets out in the wild. The pace of change of what we're doing in the future, the complexity level is that customers' budgets are going to allow them to get to, let's phrase it that way, is going to be way higher. I think, and that's going up by several orders of magnitude, because this is a new generation for me. So not having automated tests, that is not going to be an option in the future.
It's so much easier now, though.
Well, AI can create the automated test. It can, so saying this is the test I want, and I want 16 variations on that, fine, it would just go out.
That was one of the compromises that used to happen a lot, didn't it? People, the budget
ran out of money for this.
We talked about this yesterday.
There was an initial upfront cost for it, and it was an investment, because over time, if in 2 years' time you wanted to change some complex software, you got the automated test to make sure it runs. Nowadays, we're working on a project at the moment which we started well before AI came. Well, not AI came out, but
there's been 1970 or something. I know some of our projects are long, but maybe not quite that long.
Before the BC,
the recent innovations.
And now if a bug is reported, the first thing they do is use Copilot to write the test for the bug, and then and what it's actually been doing as well is that, let's say we get 4 bugs reported, we'll get Copilot to help write 4 tests, and let's say 2 of them may pass, and it's like, actually there isn't a bug, and we go back and we look, it's some data setup that was wrong. So it's just the quality absolutely is going to go up.
It's just the speed, because the speed at which we can do stuff. Write code. The system can write code at amazing speed, and because of that capability, then it's not about the code writing. It's about the instructions to write the code.
Yeah.
That's the skill.
The other nice piece we get out of this as well is that to date we'd have a specification, we'd go along, we'd write code, we'd show it would tweak a little bit. We get some bug fixes. 2 years down the line, there might be some more changes. Meanwhile, this specification set over here is just, got dust on it and no use. Now, in effect, what we can do is write the code and then say, right, now give me a document based on what I've
update the instructions.
The other thing that it can do is, again, talking about stuff that was written pre all of this new innovation. So in our support team, where they're looking at changes that we might have done 10 years ago and converted to AL at some point along the way, and have no documentation. Nobody at the customer can remember what it should do. We can't really remember what it should do, but using those kind of tools, we can say, right, this is exactly what it does. Is this right or wrong?
And it could be written by another party.
And it doesn't matter that it was...
Well, I had exactly that. Yeah. I had a big extension that we got given to us because of prospect considering a transfer, fed it into VS Code, said, what does this do? I mean, it was as simple as that. And it came out with like 2 pages of summary of what it did. And I went, okay, that's reasonable. Why are they doing that? You know, it gave me, I could go back in. So it probably from within 30 minutes of getting that extension code, I was in a position to have a quality discussion with the customer. That would have taken half a day. And more than that, it would have taken half a day, and still I would have had uncertainty in my mind that I'd gone through everything and got the whole thing.
And I think that the difference here with the model it's using is there. You know, you could almost trust it every time, because it'll even, as it's writing the code, it checks it and it goes, oh, actually, I've got a mistake here, and you can see it fixing it and coming back. And then you know, compared to what we used to on LLMs, where half the time it comes back and hallucinates, and this is actually pretty close to accurate.
I'm a little cautious about using the word trust, because I think
you still
it
check
will let you down. Yeah, that's exactly it. But the quality of its work, the times when I give it 10 out of 10 rather than 7 out of 10 has gone way up. So this is now a star pupil. It's not something and I think the danger will be with AI is when we come to rely on it and we don't check on it.
Yeah.
So that's where actually, because it will bite you. Just in the same way as, an employee, a pupil in a class has an off day and
might bite you,
and you go, oh, that's poor work. That's a C minus.
I've seen, fixing a bug. I've seen it remove a field, and it's like,
I didn't ask for that.
Yeah, but then again, that's
spotting
where,
that can be quite difficult.
In exactly the same way as sometimes you're talking to a team member and they get the wrong end of the stick.
As anything, you talked about trust. I know the example you used with Matt. I think there is an element until businesses actually trust AI to do, even if it's 60-70% of a task with then somebody coming in, it's never going to be adopted. If you don't trust what it's generating to begin with, you might as well not bother. You have to.
That's what I mean.
Trust takes time, doesn't it? With anything, trust takes time. So you need to. And I like even on the sales order agent, you can step in at lots of different points and you can choose what it is. And over time, you might go, okay, well, I'm going to go an extra couple of stages before the human.
But we've always said that about automated processes, haven't we? In that, actually, before you automate a process, whether it was on a job queue in the olden days, actually make sure you understand it and make sure it's working first.
The olden days.
Yesterday.
Because if you don't understand, if that process is a bug in that process and you're automating it, you've got no bloody chance, have you, of finding it? So I would say exactly the same thing. Your process has to be right before you can start to try and automate it. And even then, you do it gradually with checkpoints, and then gradually you build that trust.
It goes back to that new employee thing, isn't it? It's understanding their capabilities.
Yes.
And
absolutely. Working with that.
But you've got to have people in your organisation that can manage these agents.
But like if you, that new employee, if you give up on them,
yeah, it's true. Yeah. Exactly.
You've lost everything.
Yeah, you've got to invest.
With AI, you can't give up on it. So and I think I've seen a step change here at Tecman. I think in the last 3 months, I've seen now more and more people are getting in. Oh yeah, this really helps me. This really helps me.
And as soon as
it's gone from kind of I understand the concept of what it can do, but they're not bought in to it. Now there's a lot of people who are going, well, I'm going to try this because yesterday it helped me no end, and then kind of we've turned that kind of
and all these people who are saying, it's going to take my job and all that kind of stuff. I heard a really good example when I was at Directions about how they're using AI in one of the police forces. If you speak to a policeman or police lady or police person, then they will always say that what kills them is the amount of paperwork that they have to do, and actually they spend less time policing and more time. Every arrest they make, they spend 3 times, 4 times the amount of time back at the police station processing it,
protecting themselves against all the lawyers.
You imagine if you can take some of that work from them. What are they then doing? How are they spending that time? They are back out there and policing. That is got to be a massively valuable
One step towards RoboCop here, isn't it?
Well, that's what I mean. So people, you've got to think that actually it will allow people to spend their time in a more valuable way.
Anybody who has clerical officer in their job title or their job description has got a bit of a
anything that's repetitive, especially, isn't it? Where there's a process that you have to repeat over and over again. That's where AI at this moment in time is.
When you've got skilled people doing those tasks,
it's a waste,
and they don't enjoy when they've got other things that they can be doing to, in this case, make us, as streets safer, stop people driving a digger through Wolverhampton.
But the world is changing and the world is catching on. So you're talking about it. I went for a drink last night. You won't be surprised to hear. And I was sitting there, and there's a guy who runs a plant hire doing diggers and all the dumper trucks and all that sort of stuff. He said, "Oh yeah, I had this job, and the local council insisted on a method statement and a health and safety assessment." He said, "I asked ChatGPT, it came out with 6 pages, looked perfect, sent it in. It took me 3 minutes to do it."
Yeah.
And he's kind of like, he's never used ChatGPT until one of his mates, because he was moaning about, "I've got to sit in an office and type this." He doesn't Kez won't mind me saying he's better on top of a digger than he is sitting in an office writing a method statement. One of his mates said, "Why don't you use this?" So he said, "I downloaded the app, I tried it, it's perfect." And now, man, he's using it for everything.
Well, one of the slides they brought up at Directions, which I thought was great, was the 100 million user adoption slide. So the first thing was mobile phones. So mobile phones to get to 100 million users was 15 years. For the internet to get to 100 million users was 7.5 years. Facebook 4.5 years. Large language models 3 months.
Yeah,
and it's just like, wow.
So just before we stop then, have we got any more takeaways from Directions other than this?
I do. There's one, not takeaways from Directions just yet. I think there is a podcast episode around, you talked about turning the corner, and there are things organisations can do to get their staff prepare and giving them the confidence and that they've got the confidence that what they're doing, to play with it, to test it, knowing that you're supporting them as an organisation. But there's a podcast episode for another day.
But that's still AI. Have we got anything else?
There's a process you have to go through, really, isn't there?
The rest of the application, the core application, there's a bunch of improvements that come through in Wave 2. There's more planned for first.
And if you want to know what they are, ask use AI to summarise them.
What's coming in Wave 1, 2026?
We've got nothing else.
But it's kind of look, there's a tsunami of change coming. I mean, and that's no exaggeration. I think. We're trying to get our heads around. I think the hype phase of AI, and that has been one. The expectation of what it's going to do, I think, in 2026 is going to be the year in which it starts actually arriving for normal businesses out there. I'd be amazed if that's not. It's not going to be overnight. It's not going to be every process, but you need to start thinking about this and. What I feel sorry for is the people who are still on premise and back on old versions, because you're not going to get any of this if you're not. You need the platform.
Talk to us.
Well, and we have. I can sit here with a clear conscience, Liz, because we've been saying for a long time now. Look, you're going to be left behind. And it's kind of when you're talking like 10 times productivity improvements for your admin processes, that's commercial, isn't it?
Yeah.
We ran a marketing campaign over 10 years ago, and it was the idea of putting dynamics in at the time, whatever, NAV or whatever it's called, and it was called do more with less. The idea, put this off and you can do more. I think it's tables have turned now that we can do more with less in terms of the speed. We can
do less with more. Do less with more. Didn't Microsoft try and take that?
They did take that a couple of years ago. But it is, we can do more with less, and that will benefit our customers. Yeah, it's having that vision of it.
Yeah, I think the message now is not, it's coming, get ready. It's here, and don't get left behind.
I mean, one thing for every single one of our customers. If you've had a quote for us for a development project and you haven't executed because it was too expensive, the cost of doing it didn't justify what it was going to do for you, come back to us. Ask us again, because you might be surprised
my
at the revised quote.
going to love you.
James said.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, but my obligation to the customer means
100%.
you should do that.
I agree.
Okay, and just to wrap up, you started by saying that it had passed 50,000 organisations. Looking at all the data, that means as a SaaS product, it is the biggest SaaS product for a
mid-market SaaS. Biggest online kind of SaaS-based ERP system, full stop, and certainly the biggest in the mid-market.
Yeah, which is good for our customers to know they're on the best product.
I think some of the entry level, something like QuickBooks might have more customers, but that doesn't scale past 5. It's different market.
All right, thanks guys, as always. I'm sure there'll be loads more takeaways from that around what we've learned as from Directions as it comes out in the coming months, and we will see you soon on another episode. I don't know what we call these days. Another season. The next episode of Tecman Talks Dynamics.